观众朋友们好，现在是美国东部时间9月24日，这里是华尔街电视、华尔街网报。现在我们继续为您带来有关中国以及世界的最新消息。如果喜欢节目，请记得为节目点赞，并且选择订阅华尔街电视频道，接收通知，这样就可以在节目发布的第一时间获得提醒了。今天主要为您关注到的是香港问题。根据来自中央社的报道，前香港众志秘书长黄之锋涉嫌非法集结，今天被警方逮捕，而同案被捕的还有社会运动人士，案件预计在30日进行审讯。根据报道，黄之锋中午因为其他的官司到中区的警署进行报到，但是期间却遇到警方的逮捕。警方说他涉嫌在2019年10月5日明知参与未经批准的劫集，以及违反了防止蒙面条例。而事发当天，港岛铜锣湾有很多市民集结，并且游行前往中环，但是这一项活动没有经到警方的批准。而在同一起案件中，警方还拘捕了另外一位社会民主连线成员，说他参与未经批准的劫集。现在警方正式起诉两人，案件预定本月30日在东区裁判法院进行审讯。另外，有3位所谓反送中运动示威者，因为触犯了所谓暴动罪，今天被区域法院各判处3年到4年刑期不等。而根据香港商业电台报道，3名被告学生最小的只有17岁，他们之前承认在2019年7月14日在沙田的新城市广场参与了所谓暴动罪行。根据报道，区域法院今天裁决李文谦这一位17岁的学生入狱3年4个月，而另外已经成人的2位各入狱4年。而黄之锋回应道，警方在去年的6月到12月每个星期的周末有什么示威活动，有没有事都会找事来告，这些起诉和控告到底是否会令我们的抗争却步？我相信由国安法刊登至今，我们仍然继续顽强抵抗，这是最好的证明。对于这些起诉，我只有4个字：多此一举。而说到香港的未来，在9月22日，现在国务院针对中国问题的顾问余茂春先生在加拿大一家智库所举办的研讨会上给出了他自己的分析。在此前的华尔街网报节目中，我们已经为您张贴了余茂春先生演讲的中英文全部部分。而在主旨演讲之外，余茂春先生还回答了主持人以及网友的相关提问。在今天要为大家播出的这一段内容中，他回答了有关于川普总统放弃多边主义的质疑，以及有关于香港的国安法到底如何适用于非香港居民一事，还有美国政府对于北京的态度。他特别提到，习近平在联合国大会上的发言正说明这个人缺乏自知之明。下面就是这段录音的中英文字幕版本。
This is Miles Yu. Let me jump in a little bit about just follow up on what Lord Patton said so eloquently. I'd like to address the issue of multilateralism. Multilateralism should not be for its own sake. Multilateralism is a very good platform to reach goal. But sometimes we tend to think about multilateralism as if this is the only thing we care about. We forget the goal. For example, people often say the Trump administration is unilateralist, that we don't care about the TPP, we withdraw. But what's TPP's ultimate purpose? TPP's ultimate purpose was to set the standard and rules that China would have to abide by. I mean, we don't think that's the most important approach, because you have to talk to the Chinese itself, directly involving them. So that's why the present trade deal with China is really focusing almost exclusively about setting a new standard, a new rule that force China to abide by. So we can no longer beat around the bush and without solving the real problem, that is China. So, I mean, if multilateralism, it means that we have to stick to this to failed 6-party talk to solve North Korea's nuclear problem. We're going to be in this kind of a situation for a long time. So that's why the president basically took to Pyongyang, talked to Kim Jong-un directly, and neutralized him for a good 3.5 years now. So multilateralism is great, but multilateralism has a goal itself. Parties, dialogues, and the banquets itself does not necessarily mean it's a kumbaya that will solve all the problems in the world. So secondly, I would like to also to offer this issue of multilateralism. Just about every liberal democracy in the world recognizes China is a threat. We have been urging our friends and allies all over the world to build an alliance of democracies to counter the China threat. So we have always been multilateral on this China thing. And it is, unfortunately, many times our friends and allies were very reluctant. We spend most of our diplomatic efforts urging our friends and allies to join this alliance of democracy. So we're more multilateral than any other country in the world when facing the China challenge, which is global and existential. Many of us realize. And the very good thing is that in the last several months, we see our friends and allies. Lord Patton mentioned Norway, Sweden, and Canada, and so all these countries come together to realize this is something that's really, really good. We're getting together to a very important multilateral alliance of some sort to deal with the China challenge collectively. So always keep in mind, multilateralism has some kind of a base that is value, and we have shared values. That's the foundation for multilateralism. We have countries like Austria, Japan, Australia, the UK, Canada, EU, NATO, and ASEAN, all those organization countries. We all share the same values. We always keep in mind, to echo what Lord Patton has just said, China has none that it can be trusted as a really true ally to share its value. North Korea is useless for the PRC for most part. Russia is playing hard to get a game with Beijing. So China is more isolated. So it's very ironic yesterday to hear Xi Jinping at the UN to talk about China being a champion of multilateralism. That is a complete reflection of lack of self-awareness. Over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yu. I have a question for you, and this is regard to Article 38 of the new national security law, which indicates that this law applies to offenses perpetuated outside of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region even by a person who is not a permanent resident of the region. Is the United States government concerned about American citizens who have spoken out on Hong Kong, who visit foreign countries, say Thailand, for tourism or business, finding themselves detained and subject to extradition to China under the provisions of the law?
Well, we often say China is a country not rule of law, but rule by law. So because enacting the law in China is basically, all you need is a Politburo decision. So this kind of a law is very easy for them to enact. And back to the lack of self-awareness thing, I mean, Chinese government sometimes often forget what they can do inside China cannot be done internationally. So there are many mechanisms to blunt those kind of efforts. However, we do take those kind of laws, such as stipulated in Article 38, as you mentioned, in the national security law for Hong Kong, very seriously. That's why we have issued travel advisory to American citizens to places like Hong Kong and to China. We raise the risk for those reasons. So and as far as to what extent China can actually implement these laws, and China has been doing that. They've been doing this furtively, backed by what their so-called law. They have been kidnapping people all over the world. Fox Hunt is another example. And we have dissidents locked up in China for life because they were kidnapped somewhere near in the neighboring countries of China, in Thailand in particular. So you have cases like that. So we're seeing the pattern of behavior for China without the law. This is why the liberal democracies should act together to find some kind of common solution to this problem. And there's never been a problem between China and the United States. It's a problem between China and the rest of the world. Over.
Thank you very much. I have a question here that I'd like to address to Benedict or anyone else who'd like to